let me say, there's what a lot of the talk is. I mean, we could run through the presidents and their crimes. Just go. We could just do like in my lifetime. I'm going to be 40 in a few months here. So I was born in 1983. Yeah, I'm old. And so I was born, Ronald Reagan was the president when I was born, when I was a baby. Even going through that, because, a lot of people will say this is the big talking point right now in the corporate press and on social media and stuff, is that what this proves is that no one's above the law. Even the president is not above the law, right? Like because he can still be charged. But of course, that's so ridiculous. And then I've even seen some of the I don't know, whatever you want to call them, the kind of Beltway libertarian types being like, yeah, this is what libertarians believe in, that presidents aren't above the law. And it's just so misguided. It's so stupid because it's like, no, the precedent, like if Donald Trump were charged for, conducting a genocide in Yemen for every day of his administration, if he were charged for that, I'd be out there cheering it on because, yeah, that would set a precedent. And then you could start really pushing the idea that all these other guys should be charged and that any president in the future would have to think twice about getting whether they're going to get away with that or not. Yeah, you could actually go to jail, dude. So you better not, you better not start any illegal wars. But of course, that's not what's happening. And what's really happening here? Okay, so it's something that lots of other politicians do that almost any of them could be charged for, right? Almost any of them you could find these petty charges. This doesn't do anything to clean up corruption. The Obamas, what are they worth? Like over $100 million or something like that now? Because they came into office, they had a few $1 million. Same with the Clintons, came in, had a few $1 million, worth like $300 million now. It's not, not cleaning up any corruption. The only precedent that is set by this is that if you are an outsider, or if you're a president who is opposed by the deep state, you can go to jail. So this is it's hard to explain how naive, especially from a libertarian standpoint, it is to think this is setting some type of good precedent. It's no, it's the worst. It's the worst precedent. It's it's letting them know that if you ever actually wanted to drain the swamp, you might go to jail. That's what you might go to jail if that's what you wanted. Yeah, I'm sorry. They're saying $40 million or $70 million the Obama's net worth is, whatever. Anyway, it's a lot more than it was when they came in. But that's the precedent that would be set. That if you, now again, because I have to spell this out for some people, that's not to say that Donald Trump was actually draining the swamp, right? And that's not to say that Donald Trump actually was bringing down the deep state, but it's pretty much beyond debate that he was opposed by them. They tried to frame him for treason for 4 years. They worked against him at every turn. So if we ever got someone who actually was trying to drain the swamp, then the only precedent set here is that the justice system can be weaponized against them. So again, when they say, oh, presidents aren't above the law, it's okay. So let's go through in my lifetime. Ronald Reagan, okay? Ronald Reagan, in his first year in office, he took this over. I think Jimmy Carter started this, but he funded both sides of the Iraq-Iran war, where that's our thing. Yeah, right. So something in the neighborhood of 500,000 people on each side died. It was an incredibly bloody war. I can't remember, it lasted 6-7 years or something like that. Where Saddam Hussein invaded Iran with the backing of the United States of America. This was, by the way, when Saddam Hussein was actually at his most brutal. He was a really brutal dictator, but the worst thing he ever did was this 1980 Iraq-Iran war, used chemical weapons against the Iranians. It was horrible, horrific. So again, like I said, somewhere in the neighborhood of 500,000 people on each side died, 1 million total people died. Just horrible. Had the full support of the U.S. government while he was doing it. They greenlit it. In fact, this was the strategy back then, was to support Saddam Hussein to contain Iran. Of course, he also though was caught up in the whole Iran-Contra scandal, where he was also selling weapons to Iran. And then rerouting them to the war in Nicaragua, where he was illegally supporting one side of that war. And then to help those Nicaraguans, he let them ship drugs into the United States of America while he was ramping up the drug war. Literally was his people were shipping cocaine into urban American cities, and he was arresting the people who took it from them and then started distributing it. So, okay, it's a criminal on every level, but he never got charged for anything. And by the way, none of what I just said to you is even like speculation. This is all like come out that it's happened. He's never charged for any of it. And of course, then you have George H.W. Bush. I don't even know where to start with him. Of course, led the war, the first war in Iraq, which was supposed to, they were all celebrating how this was a quick, easy, decisive victory. Remember the Desert Storm War in Iraq when we were all little kids? And it was like, yeah, this just showed you how easily America can just go in there and just win a quick war. Except 30 years later, we're still there. So it turns out it wasn't so quick or successful. George H.W. Bush was also the head of the CIA and committed a whole bunch of crimes there as well. You have Bill Clinton, who just aside from personally being, a rapist who was pals with Jeffrey Epstein, who was on his flight logs going to Thailand with Jeffrey Epstein.
That's a boys' weekend if I've ever heard of one.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're pretty above the law if you get away with that. But of course, as president, also launched a legal war in Serbia, just blatantly illegal. That couldn't get a UN resolution. I mean, it'd still be illegal under the Constitution if you don't have a declaration of war, but couldn't get a UN resolution because Russia had veto power. So he just launched it with NATO, just went in, started a war. So also had the brutal bombing campaigns of Iraq with no congressional authorization. Just tons of crimes, not to mention all the like corruption stuff that I guess they never really got to the bottom of. And if you really want to get petty about it, also was guilty of perjury. Now he was impeached over this, and he lost his lost his license to practice law, but no one ever thought about indicting him or arresting him for that because he was above the law. Do we even have to do George W. Bush?
What
do you even do?
Let's do it.
He was illegally stupid. He was so stupid it should be a crime to be stupid. He instituted torture, lied the American people into war. That seems like a pretty serious crime. Barack Obama committed treason, which is not hyperbolic in the slightest. He knowingly armed Al-Qaeda in Syria. Not to mention also, served as their air force in Libya and Yemen, but actually sent them weapons and money in Syria with the goal of overthrowing Bashar al-Assad, which was also an illegal war where he never got, congressional authorization for any of these things. Also killed American citizens, Anwar al-Awlaki and his 16-year-old kid with no charges, no due process, kept secret kill lists, like some pretty serious crimes. And then if you want to go to Donald Trump, he also killed an American citizen who was related to the al-Awlaki family, an 8-year-old girl. He continued the war of genocide in Yemen through his entire administration, launched illegal strikes in Syria, in Iraq, just a lot of shit there. And all of those crimes the presidents all got away with. So don't tell me like, oh, this proves that the presidents aren't above the law. They are. They're all above the law, and everyone knows that. All this proves is that if the political class deems you an enemy, you no longer enjoy that privilege of being above the law. So like, this is nothing for anyone who's, a fan of liberty or civilization or anything like that to celebrate. This is all just corrupt politics. That's all that's happening here.